Welcome to the Pulsating Biology, and today we are starting the new chapter, that is chapter number 2, classification. We are not being asked in this chapter to cover it in a very detail, but we will be covering some subtopics. And before that, first we will go through the syllabus. In every video, I do advise students to have a syllabus whether in a hard copy or a soft copy. If you don't, then it might be a little bit difficulty for you to study within the pointers. Well, we have two of them, that is 2.1 and 2.2. Firstly, we are going to discuss 2.1, of course, because it consists of 4 pointers that says understand that organisms can be classified into groups by the features they share and describe a species. This is a very common one that has been asked in often Olevels MCQ-based questions that describe a species as a group of organisms that can reproduce to produce fertile offspring. So we will be discussing about what is a species. We are being asked to describe the binomial system of naming species as an internationally agreed system in which the scientific name of an organism is made up of two parts showing the genus and the species. So we will be discovering and be discussing the binomial nomenclature basically. And the fourth pointer says construct and use the dichotomous keys based on identifiable features. So we will be covering most of the topics, or we will try to cover most of the topics in this video. Well, firstly, let's begin with a topic that we have been asked in the 2.1, that is the species. Species can be majorly described as the group of organisms that can reproduce to produce fertile offspring. Basically, species are a very small natural group of organisms. It is very easy to understand that how naturally the animals or the organism can classify themselves. So it is a very small natural group of organism which can basically reproduce to produce fertile offspring. Their basically species are very identical in their anatomical, physiological behaviors. So let's talk about first the how anatomy and the physiological behavior. So let's first talk about how it is similar anatomically. So when it comes to anatomy, we describe the human body or the organisms into two of them. That is, it consists of either an exoskeleton or the other skeleton is the endoskeleton. It is very easy to understand how the exoskeleton differs from endoskeleton, because exoskeleton is basically at the outer surface or outside, and the endosurface, as it is referred with the help of a name, endo and exo, that it is inside the, or the, it is on the inner surface of the internal body. So we humans basically lack the exoskeleton. We do not have exoskeleton. We only have an endoskeleton. But there are many organisms and many animals that live with the help of an exoskeleton, or their exoskeleton is shed off and then they get a new one. So this is how they are similar anatomically. Let's talk about how they are similar physiologically. So in physiologically, we say that each of them consists of, let's say, lungs, and let's say another similar organism, let's say gills, or book lungs, let's say gills. So does animal have lungs? Does animal have gills? Does animal have feathers? So they are all of these features that are basically present in an animal. So all the animals are grouped together into a small natural group, which is known as a species. Let's also talk about the behavior. So when it comes to a behavioral differences or the similarity, when I'll be explaining you this, you will be understanding the physiological and the anatomical behavior much more in a better way. So when it comes to behavior, let's say one of the behavior that is a meow, and the other behavior is a bark. So all of the cats does meow, whether they are of any breed, whether they are of any culture, where all of the dogs similarly does to bark, whether they are of different from different regions. So this is how the behavioral, anatomical, and the physiological behavior in turns together to form a species. Thus, it defines that how it is a small group of organisms that consist of many animals, that consist of many bugs, that consist of many bacteria, or it can be any species of colony. So this is what we need to know about species and how, if they are classified, they have similar anatomical, physiological behavior. So now that we have discussed the species in detail, let's come on to another topic, that is the binomial nomenclature. It is basically defined as in which the two terms are used to denote a species of living organism. Now you're well aware of the term species, so how a species is named with the help of the two terms. So let's say there is a scientific name, and that scientific name, what does this definition tells us, that the scientific name do have a name of a genus, and let's say a name of a species. Genus and the name of a species. What you need to remember in this is that first there would be the name of genus, then the name of the species. This is how it is orderly arranged. Let's take an example of a tiger. Tiger in our normal language is said to be a tiger, which is a very common name of an animal, and in scientific name we call it Panthera tigris. Panthera tigris. So this is a common name of the tiger, which we very commonly use even, and this is a scientific name which we do not use. Now what is meant by this? This Panthera tigris means that this is the genus of the tiger family and this is the species. So the P of the Panthera would be capital, whereas the T of the tigris would be in a smaller letter. So this is how we denote how a genus and the species together makes up a name of organism that in turn is not named as a common name, and we call it by the name of a common name. But we often have been asked in the MCQ based question that how genus and species makes up a name of the organism. What is the scientific name? So scientific name is something that the authors or the scientists use. We do not use it very commonly. So that's it for the binomenclature. Let's come on to another topic. That is the next topic that we have is the genus versus the species. Let's talk about in detail that the genus are basically the bigger groups, whereas the species on the other hand have the smaller groups. The one of the disadvantages that genus organisms have, that the organisms are very less alike among each other. They are very less alike. They are not like each other. Whereas the organisms in the species are almost similar. Organisms are very alike. What happens in a genus is that the genus have the organism in the genus have the same genus, but they have the different species. Similarly, what is the difference when it comes to the species group? Species group have the same species, but they have the different genus. This is how we learned that how the term genus and the species basically is different. Whenever the organism in a group have the similar genus, they would have a different species, and whenever they have a different species, they would have a similar genus. So this is the difference that we need to learn between a genus and the species. Next, we need to talk about the classification hierarchy. So the classification hierarchy begins with the term domain. All you need to learn in this is the sequence, how the domain in turns up to a kingdom, and the kingdom in turns up to a phylum. Those phylum in turns up to a class, then into an order, then family, then genus, and then the species. How we have learned earlier that the genus should be named with a capital letter is because genus in the classification hierarchy comes above the species. Alright, so this is the sequence that you need to learn for your MCQ based questions, that how the domain turns into a kingdom, kingdom turns into a phylum, then into a class, then into an order, then order combines into a family that forms up a genus, and then in turn forms up a species. I've also mentioned a trick that is in my shorts. If you want to watch that and how to learn the sequence, you can watch that very easily. This is the classification hierarchy in your syllabus. We are not being asked to discuss it in much detail, so we won't be doing it. So this is all you need to learn within this schedule. Next topic that we have, it's a very small topic, that is the rules for naming in nomenclature. There are four mentioned rules. Number one, number two, number three, and then we have number four. Well, the number one says how the scientific name should be italicized in the print or underlined when written. So they're talking about when we are talking about the scientific names, that should be italicized. Let me show you what the term italicized means. So basically, it means like have a look at this. This is the normal written form. It is just a term that means nothing. Absolutely, they're just the letters. And this is italicized. It means whenever we write something a bit tilted like this, so we call it italicized. And whenever we call it this, it is the basic font. So it should be italicized in print, or it should be an underlined print. This is how what is meant by the underlined print whenever it is written. And the next pointer says always capitalize the genus name and lowercase species. When we're talking about the nomenclature, I've told you how the scientific name have the two parts, that is the genus name and then we have the species name. So always the genus name we kept it capital, and the species name we kept it in a smaller letter or the lowercase letter. This is what they're talking about. Always capitalize the genus name and lowercase the species. The species should be lowercase. The third pointer says scientific name for a man is a Homo sapien. This is a very commonly asked MCQ based question, that what is the scientific name of a man? So we all the human beings are named as Homo sapiens in the scientific manner. The last pointer says genus may be abbreviated but not this species. By the term abbreviated mean anything that is made smaller to be learned easier in an easier way. So genus may be abbreviated. The term genus that is written with a capital letter, this may be abbreviated, but the name of the species cannot be abbreviated and it cannot be changed. These are some rules that we need to keep in mind when we are working on the nomenclature. Although we don't usually do it because the scientists do it so, but we do need to know about these rules.